won't survive.
What's going on, everybody? It's your boyfriend Moho, and in this video I want to talk to you guys a little bit about why it's good to remember the past. And I think that's really a good topic. I asked that on Twitter just now, and somebody came up with that, and I think it's really interesting because I've never really heard anybody talk about why it's good to remember the past. Because people say, the saying goes, history always repeats itself, and I could I could go on and on about that. Like, that is so true. It's unbelievable. And sometimes people don't learn from their mistakes. Mistakes are usually what happened in your past, and a lot of people don't learn from it, and it happens again and again and again. I can relate to a lot of stuff with that as well. And I think it's good to remember your past, because if you don't remember your past, it's like starting fresh all over again. You know what I mean? Like, experience, like, you have experience. If you remember your past, you're not gonna fuck up again. If you date a girl, right, and the girl cheats on you because she's a scumbag with some other scumbag, and you don't remember that, and you're going to another relationship, you're not going to look for the qualities in the next girl that the old girl didn't possess. You know what I mean? Like, remembering your past, although it was hurtful, and you might have been hurt from it, of her being a little douchebag. You still got to remember that she's a douchebag. And like I said, although it could, it might hurt, but it's for the better. Or let's say, for example, you cheated on a test and you got caught, which is the worst feeling, by the way, because I did actually get caught cheating on a test. It was so bad. And actually, you know what? I'm going to get into this. I'm going to get into it because I feel like this deserves a good listening. Back in 7th grade, I was at a Christian school. It was called Heritage Christian Academy. And it was weird because I actually got put in there in 7th grade, and I was with the 8th graders, right? Because I failed the grade. I failed 7th grade at this school. It's ironic. It's weird because I don't know. I don't want to get too far into that, but I ended up failing 7th grade, and it was my fault. I don't blame anybody else but me. So anyway, it was me and a bunch of kids. There were at least 15 kids in this class, which is rather large for a Christian school, for a private school. So, at the end, skip all the way through the end, I failed one class. Now, back then, Bush just got in office, and it was kind of like the whole No Child Left Behind thing didn't really work in private schools, and I failed one class, and they were super strict. If you fail one class, which was a history class, I passed math but failed history. Like, how does that make any sense? You know what I mean? And I failed it, and they ended up, like, instead of taking me into summer school, because they only had room for one kid, instead of taking me, they took some Russian kid who didn't even know how to speak English, which was crazy. So I ended up failing 7th grade, and I got put into the 7th grade again, but it was a smaller class this time. It was a smaller class, and I had one ugly girl. Like, she was so ugly, you don't even understand. An ugly guy. I couldn't even relate to the kid because he was nerdy. He was really old. Outdated, I guess. Like, he wasn't hip. You couldn't really relate to him in school, especially for, being in 7th grade. You couldn't really talk to him. He was just weird. And then there was two other girls. One was really cute, and I really had a crush on her. And the other one was semi-cute as well, but they were, like, best friends. I don't know, it was kind of weird at the time. And the one that I had a crush on was super experienced. She was ahead of her time because she had two older sisters that were kind of like the ex-girlfriend that I talked about in the beginning of this video, where they were just super slutty, and they've been around the block. You know what I mean? You catch my drift? And they just knew what they were doing, and she was following the leader. She was following in her sister's footsteps, and that was too much for me at that time. I was a baby Moho. I was 7th grade. Well, actually 8th grade, because I failed. But nonetheless, I was still inexperienced. Okay, so she was too much for me. So then we had a new student. A new student came in, and it was a cool thing then, because when you get a new student, everybody has to rise. Like, come on, you're starting out with 6 kids. You get a new student, it's like Christmas. You know what I mean? So we get this new student. She walks in, and I immediately fall in love. She's like the cutest girl I've ever seen in my life. Cuter than one I've currently had a crush on. It's so funny, because it's true. It's so funny. And, back then we were immature, and her idea of flirting with me was picking on me, like talking shit. being a smartass. And one day, she was really good. She's really good because we had this like retarded teacher. Like he was on meds. Like no joke. It was pretty bad. He was on meds, and I was scrolling through his teacher book when he went to go to the bathroom. And I found the answers to the test that he was going to give us, and I wrote them down. I did it so sneakily, like you'd never know I did it. And this girl, who ended up being my future girlfriend, actually told on me after the test was over with, and told him where I actually had kept the answer sheet, and it was in my science book, and he had caught it, and I actually got suspended, and I never cheated on a test ever again. But if it wasn't for me remembering the past and knowing what happened with those experiences, I'd probably do the same mistake over and over. And that's why it's good to remember the past. Thank you guys for watching the video. That is a true story, by the way. And that is truly how I feel about remembering the past. And I hope you guys learned something from this video. As always, on the top left and right, you can check out the previous video and the 1v1 series. We'll catch you guys later. Peace!